Oh, welcome back. You can see little big Zeus right here. So he's just been thermoregulating. Where are we at? We're on the 22nd of May, which is basically just past the last third of autumn. It's been getting cool. It's been getting down to 7 degrees. I can't really tell what's 7 degrees, about 42 degrees Fahrenheit, I think. But anyway, so what's been happening at Hibiscus Hatcheries? Not much. What do we got there? So Zeus is currently about 24 degrees Celsius. So we'll have a look up there. That's about 72 degrees or something like that, 74 degrees Fahrenheit. I struggle with the Fahrenheit, sorry about that. Zeus has had a couple of days in brumation. He's definitely been doing little brumation poos. We've had a bit of a almost tragedy, and this is a thing I experienced quite a few years ago now, but it's a big reason why you check on your tortoises twice daily at least. Little Montana. So this is one of Zeus's babies. We have Montana and Miracle. Miracle is the one-eyed tortoise, so this is Miracle's little sister Montana. She is hatched out this year, and I found her upside down in the water bowl in the morning. And I hadn't checked her the night before, so naughty to me. She's perfectly fine, yay. But what hadn't done in the top terrarium is put one piece of rock. I normally have a piece of cuttlefish in there, and I normally have a piece of rock, so they can leverage off. And she was upside down and quite exhausted, weren't you? But there was a couple of days ago, and she's perfectly all right now. What are we going to have a chat about today is sort of UV. So right now, there's a cloud behind. So I'm directing it straight at the sun, and we're 1.1 UVB UV. So we're way low on the Ferguson scale. But this is sort of what I'm getting to with natural versus indoor keeping. Indoor keeping, you do have the control with, really good thermostat controls and stuff like that. You can alter. You can't alter on a daily basis the temperature really, unless you're going to go in there. But yeah, I don't see any necessity to especially indoors. You're not going to get the radiation like you do with the sun, like I've just showed with Zeus. It's barely 16 degrees, so it's about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and he's getting up by the radiation from the sun. He's getting up to 24 degrees. Still a bit cold for him, but he started to move around. He's just thermoregulated, and so he has got out of the hutch over there. There's Jilly still in there. Daisy's up. She's still eating. So fascinating. So 50% of our tortoises, our adult tortoises, aren't in brumation. 2 girls. So Punga's not really getting up unless it gets a little bit hotter, which has surprised me. Zeus is getting up, but Marigold and Margarita have been in brumation for at least a couple of weeks now. About 50% of the juveniles are in brumation and 50% aren't. So this is where I struggle with indoor brumating and putting them into things like fridges, because there's a period of time that they are sort of in this limbo where they get up, not as long as the daylight's shorter and things like that, and they still go through a bit of the motions. So they do eat a little bit, but they're essentially expelling any food in their stomach. So they're not, if they are passing feces, it's much smaller. But yeah, I thought I'd just touch base, get off the rants, Zeus? But we got full sun now. Yep, pretty much. So I'll give you a bit of a scenario there. So still full sun, we're 2.5 on the Ferguson scale. So we're just starting to get into that range the very minimal of it. And this is so thermoregulation, or heating up of your reptiles, is a bit more important realistically, because we also go off the Ferguson scale in the middle of summer. But yeah, that's pretty good sunlight, and we're at 2.5. So this is the things that you can't really mimic. You can mimic if you get a really good system like the Lumini system, in which is what we have, and I think is absolutely brilliant. That, you know, this time of the year we aren't maxing out on the sun. We're actually got it down to 70 or 80% max during the middle, and we're also reducing the length of the sunlight. We're mimicking it for the beginning of autumn, basically. So they stay, these guys here, little Montana here, they don't go into brumation in their first year, their hatchling year of winter. We keep them in a sort of suspended late or early autumn right through winter, which is probably, well, this is what we have found to be the best. We don't overheat them. They don't go past 30 odd degrees inside, but that's there's an ambient temperature of 30 degrees, whereas, as we all know, outside you can be very, very hot in the sun. Let's see what I am at the moment, eh? Let's see if I can do that. 31 degrees in the sun, whereas the actual ambient temperature, we're 16 odd degrees. So just a little conversation. What else? Because old Zeus here will be going into promotion. He's bothering us a little bit in the afternoon, but they're pretty much all done by about 3 o'clock, and it's nearly midday. And he's only just got up at around 11 o'clock and came out. So that's where we are at Hibiscus Hatcheries. And this is a big thing to be very aware of, really, in regards to UV and heating. You know, it's getting cold at night. We're getting down to 7 degrees, so it's cold for us anyway, which is just above 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And they're still getting up and wandering around at 16 odd degrees. So at about 60 degrees, the 3 of them, there's the 2 female Hermans that we have, and the 1 male Greek. Oh, what are you up to? You liking that a bit of sunshine? You don't really get to see sunshine, do you? You're very cute. Everybody's going to get jealous of you, Montana. So yeah, and that's the other thing, is that you got to sort of understand with outside and in nature, they brumate. So for a good quarter of the year, give or take, they're not getting any UV at all, but they're also not metabolizing calcium. And well, do you want to have a wee bit of a wander around? We're going to let you wander around, but I got to keep an eye on you. You can't get out, but I could lose you. So yeah, and all the Hermans are, well, 4 of the Hermans juveniles are getting up, and they've got a slightly cooler enclosure. They get sunlight, but not as much direct sunlight as the adults. The cold frame over there has lifted wide open, so it's warmer than 16 degrees. The greenhouse is warmer than 16 degrees, but the cold frame and the juveniles isn't opened at all, so it's cooler than 16 degrees, and I can't see anybody waking up in there so at the moment. And so hopefully they'll be going into promotion fairly shortly. 4 of them already have. But that's just a little bit of a chit chat about what's happening around here. I'm going to start doing a project. I'm still a year or 2 away from getting the box turtles in the pond area, and we have the second lot of Liliopsis. So we have 3 types here, and that's the New Zealand one. So I'm a little bit, you know, there's still probably a month or so before I can actually, they grow into quite a mat, so then I can lift them up and put them into the pot. Well, I sort of float them into the pond, which you can see on other episodes if you ever look back on the other episodes. But that's all about it. You know, so I'm gonna, on the fence line, I'm putting corrugated iron underneath the soil. Yes, it will rust and stuff like that, but it's more for to prevent traction up the wall. Box turtles are extremely good climbers. You guys are fairly good climbers, but you're not as good as the box turtles, are they? They can just go vertical pretty much. And Montana now is showing a little bit of restlessness in the enclosure. So I put her out spring in the small enclosure because she was getting quite restless in the enclosures. And this is sort of part and parcel. They're terrestrial animals. Their whole world is on a flat plane. They don't climb trees and things like lizards and stuff like that. So it's quite helpful, if you can, to try and make as big an environment, expansive environment as you can have for them. You got to realize that these creatures are probably going to outlive you. We're very fortunate in New Zealand, which is that we don't have an abundance of tortoises. We breed them, but we're pretty well aware that adults will be snapped up and bought. Generally, if the females are very expensive, you wouldn't believe how much you can get for a female tortoise. We'll have to pay for a female tortoise here. There's no such thing as rehoming or rescue tortoises pretty much here in New Zealand, which is great. There's not. We don't import them. We only have 2 varieties that are available, which is our Greek spur thighs, maybe up to 5 subspecies, and the Hermans, Eastern Hermans. We don't even have Western Hermans. We may have Western hybrids. We're not 100% sure there. As a lot of you may or not know, just studies on tortoises in pre-2000 and dedicated studies to tortoises, especially in New Zealand, is non-existent. So, there's a few people that are trying to sort of get a bit of an understanding, but you're much better, aren't you? And and tortoises do get, in the areas they come from, it does get cooler at night. They can handle cooler conditions, so you don't need to cook them all day and all night, do you, Zeusy? You don't want to come up here. You were being funny. You came inside one day, didn't you? Watched a bit of TV because you were annoying me too much. But now you can see he'll still want to be around me quite a bit, if I come out or if he knows that I'm home. That's your duddy. But anyway, have a great day. It's just catching up. There's nothing too exciting to go on about. Might have some clips next week or the week after of me doing some building of the putting the fence up on the pond area. Might get chatting about the water dragons as well. I haven't done that for a while. They do brumate, and they potentially brumate, they seem to brumate in the water, which is quite intense if you ask me. But you're not brumating yet, are you, buddy? No, you sort of had a couple of days off. And this is the big thing about brumation. It's just not a solid thing like hibernation. It's not they just switch off and go straight in. They'll, prior to it, even Marigold and Margarita, they'll get up for a few days off and on, and then they do expel much smaller feces that you'd be normally used to. Here in New Zealand, well, pretty much anywhere, if you can actually keep them outside, babies as small as you can be outside. We don't like it because it's the most riskiest time is having hatchlings out. But next year, you'll be out with your big system, and that will be it for good. If you're installing lights and keeping your tortoises inside, make sure you have a solar meter. They will guarantee peace of mind for you, really, and also making sure that you don't have the UV bulbs too close to the tortoises. The luminizer is great because you can actually alter the percentage of light, so the intensity can be reduced. But the big reason is so they, too much UV, too strong UV, you can actually make your reptiles go blind. So bear that in mind. If you do, and these aren't cheap. These are probably one of the more, I was very excited when I got my first solar meter, because in New Zealand terms this is $500, and we don't really do too much too much indoor keeping. So we do have enclosures, and those are for hatchlings. So it's really, really important that we make sure that our UV ratings, and you can read on the side and stuff like that, but it's also great to have to check where your bulb is at. If you have a luminized system, obviously if you push the test, that goes to full strength. So that's when you want to test it. We have it down to 80%, which is still in the parameters, isn't it, buddy? At the peak of the day is the 80%. And anyway, Big Zeusy, what are you up to, mate? You are very cute, aren't you? We like you. So there we go. And this is what you sort of have to understand as well. Come right up. This is a 3-month-old tortoise, and we have no idea because he's come from a deceased estate. So because this shell's so perfect, we have a, besides this part here, which was from the previous owners, and that's where I think they kept him in a sort of rabbit-like enclosure, and he's rubbed and got probably a bit of shell rot at some stage against the wire, but otherwise you've been kept fairly well, haven't you, buddy? And you've got a great personality, a bit sleepy, but anyway, have a great day. We'll put Montana back, and we're very grateful that she's still with us, and I've put a stone in her little dish. I use little plant dishes, saucers basically, pot plant saucers, because I've noticed with some of the really good brands, they make reptile bowls, and I have used one in the past, and unfortunately we lost a baby Herman about 4 years ago. I'm not going to say the names but you need very shallow dishes for hatchlings, don't you? And try and do everything as natural as possible, please. And that's not Cora. I know a lot of you do use it and things like that, and I'm not going to get into a rant about it, but all you need is topsoil. That's what they live in the wild on, It's probably quite clay loam. I know it's got a lot of calcium in a lot of the areas that they do live in. So there's things like that. You can put lime into your soil to help it have a much higher calcium rate. But otherwise, and you got to realize these are going to be your pets for all your life, hopefully, if you do it correctly. This is not just a disposable little animal. And you're spending, not especially in the countries that most of you come from, you're not spending much on the actual animal. It's not like a French bulldog, which are cute little animals, and you're a cute little animal, but they're real expensive. They can get into the tens and 20,000s of dollars. Well, think about this tortoise. He won't cost me anything to feed. A little bit of cuttlefish that I got to buy from time to time. And he's essentially just eating weeds and flowers that we grow on site. It's taken us 4 or 5 years and a lot of education. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And so we've slowly dedicated our front yard to keeping these guys to the best that we can do. And that's been a lot to do with social media and Facebook and really good accounts. I'm getting sort of a bit bemused where they just, you get onto these Facebook groups and they're just throwing up these random sort of Google stuff, and it's, it's a good broad line, safe way of keeping them, but it's not necessarily 100% accurate. Soaking, I'm doing a big rant on that with the shorts. That's absolutely not necessary whatsoever. These, the arid specialists, so I'll never see you soaking, do I? You barely creep into the edge of the little drinky water, but in the middle of summer, sometimes you might actually see them soaking a little bit. Not necessarily soaking, bathing, let's say, and it's the same as basking. Tortoises don't bask. They solar regulate, so they heat up and then they get moving. If your tortoise is just sitting under the heat spotlight, and I really don't recommend having spotlights, you're better to have a heat source, because they are attracted to light, because that's where they think the heat comes from. But anyway, have a great day. I'm not going to kiss him. He's covered with salmonella. I'm going off to wash my hands. But anyway, that's the difference with a Greek spur thigh, from a hatchling to an old boy. Ta-ta!